Hello, boys. Today, for this week's reading, we are going to start reading this new book. It's called Throw Your Tooth on the Roof, Tooth Traditions from Around the World by Selby B. Beeler and illustrated by G. Brian Karras. So that means that there's no photographs in this book, right? It's illustrated. So someone actually drew the pictures. So I want you to think for a second. Have you ever lost a tooth? And if you've lost a tooth, what did you do with your tooth? What happened to your tooth after you lost it? Okay, so this book is called Tooth Traditions from Around the World. Traditions or customs are special ways of doing things. So people follow traditions over and over again. So many countries have their own traditions. For example, we celebrate birthdays with blowing out candles on a birthday cake, or we eat turkey on Thanksgiving. But not all countries do that. So we're going to read a book today that talks about the different traditions of losing your tooth and what happens when you lose your tooth all around the world. So children from many different countries, what do they do when their teeth fall out? So I want you to think about what you do, and then we're going to read this book today. So while I'm reading today, I'm not going to show you the pictures. We're going to use the strategy of visualizing, right? Because good readers visualize. They create a picture in their mind while they're listening to a story or while they're reading. We don't always have pictures to help us, right? So what you're going to do, I like to close my eyes and I like to make a picture in my mind using the author's words. You don't have to close your eyes, but it's definitely a strategy that can help you. You're going to listen to what Miss Black is saying, and I want you to create a picture in your mind, create a movie in your mind about what you hear. So before we read, I'm going to read one small part of the book, and then I'm going to show you a map. Has this ever happened to you? You find a loose tooth in your mouth? Yikes! You can wiggle it with your finger. You can push it back and forth with your tongue. Then one day it falls out. There you are with your old baby tooth in your hand and a big hole in your mouth. It happens to everyone, everywhere, all over the world. Look, my tooth fell out, my tooth fell out. But what happens next? What in the world do you do with your tooth? So today we're going to read about different parts of the country, different parts of the world, different countries around the world. And I will show you. First, we're going to read about the United States, which is where we live. Then we are going to read about Argentina. Then we will read about Cameroon. Then we'll read about Russia. And lastly, we will read about Vietnam, which is down here. So we're going to read about all these different places around the world and what happens when they lose their tooth. What do they do? What are their traditions? So I'm going to read these parts of the book to you about different countries, and I want you to just make a picture in your mind. I'm not going to show you the pictures. So first, we have the United States. I put my tooth under my pillow. While I'm sound asleep, the tooth fairy will come into my room, take my tooth, and leave some money in its place. I'll read that one again. United States, which is where we live. I put my tooth under my pillow. While I'm sound asleep, the tooth fairy will come into my room, take my tooth, and leave some money in its place. So remember, we're visualizing today. So I'm going to share with you how I visualize the United States because it's somewhere that we're very familiar with. And I think it's something that you do too. So I'm visualizing, there isn't a picture here. I'm visualizing me when I was a little girl and I'm sleeping in my bed. My tooth fell out, so I took my tooth and I used to always put it in a little plastic bag. And then I had a pillow. So this is what I'm visualizing. I had a pillow, it went under my pillow, and then I would fall asleep. So I'm picturing a little girl in her bed asleep with a tooth underneath her pillow. And then the tooth fairy flies into her room, opens her window, and takes the big tooth and leaves a bunch of coins for the little girl. I'm picturing that in my mind. I'm making a movie in my mind of what's happening in the United States when someone's tooth falls out. She wakes up in the morning and there's money left for her and her tooth is gone. So that was how Miss Black visualized. So now what I want you to do is I want you to listen carefully as I'm reading about other countries and their traditions, and I want you to pick one of them, and I want you to draw a picture of what you visualized. If you have to, you can definitely rewind this video later on to help you. So that was about the United States. Now we're going to read about Argentina. Remember, I'm not showing you the pictures. Argentina. I put my tooth in a glass of water. During the night, a little mouse called El Ratoncito will come and drink all of the water, take my tooth, and leave me some coins or candy in the empty glass. I'll read that again. Argentina. I put my tooth in a glass of water. During the night, a little mouse called El Ratoncito will come and drink all the water, take my tooth, and leave me some coins or candy in the empty glass. That was Argentina. Now we will read about Cameroon. That's in Africa. Cameroon. I throw my tooth over the roof, shouting, "Take this bad tooth and bring me a new one." Then I hop around my house on one foot and everyone laughs. I'll read that again. Cameroon. I throw my tooth over the roof, shouting, "Take this bad tooth and bring me a new one." Then I hop around my house on one foot and everyone laughs. Okay, the next country we are reading about is Russia. My mother said to put my tooth in a mouse hole in the ground. In Russia, my mother said to put my tooth in a mouse hole in the ground. And last but not least, we have Vietnam. I throw my lower tooth on the roof and throw my upper tooth under the bed. I'll read that one again. Vietnam. I throw my lower tooth on the roof and throw my upper tooth under the bed. Okay, so I told you how I visualize. Now I want you to visualize. I want you to pick one of the other countries that I read about. Argentina, Cameroon, Russia, or Vietnam. I want you to draw a picture of what you visualize. What do you visualize is happening when they lose their tooth? What is their tradition? And then I want you to write one sentence that tells me what's in your picture. Okay, so you're drawing a picture of one of those traditions that I read about, not the United States, because we're familiar with that one. And I want you to draw a picture of it, and then I want you to write one sentence about what you were visualizing.